Welcome everybody, we're at the beautiful Château Bellefont Belcier and we're being hosted by Jean-Christophe Meilleux. Thank you very much for hosting us. This is the director of Château Bellefont Belcier and we're in the Saint-Émilion appellation. So thank you for having us today.
My pleasure.
Beautiful backdrop we have here, Bellefont Belcier, not bad. So the history about this chateau, how far do we go back?
Wow, it's a typical 18th century chateau that was built in a time when Saint-Émilion and the area was quite wealthy actually because of the river. So it was possible to do some commerce, selling stuff, wine, including wine everywhere in the world. So it was a good period. They were building some beautiful chateau like this one.
Yeah, stunning chateau, Grand Cru classé, and also it's a bed and breakfast, I suppose you could say, chambre d'hôte, bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And there's 15 rooms here, so a lot of work to keep things ticking over.
A lot of work, yes. It's quite unique because in Saint-Émilion we are, I think, one of the only chateaux with such a potential in terms of rooms, as you said, 15 rooms. This is exactly a chambre d'hôte, as you said. It's not an hotel, but it's like a family house available for people. It's very quiet, as you can see. A beautiful area. We are on the south coast of Saint-Émilion, so you have these beautiful slopes.
Just talking about the slopes, a little bit about the terroir here, because I imagine this is the famous limestone plateau of Saint-Émilion running through behind us here.
It's a great, it's one of the best areas in Saint-Émilion in terms of terroir. This is what we call the Côte Sud, south coast. And this Côte Sud starts just behind us on what we call a tertre. This is the beginning of the Côte Sud. And the estate is Tertre Rotebeuf. And after Tertre Rotebeuf, you have Bellefont Belcier here, Larcis Ducasse, Pavie. Then you switch to Ozone. And then you go to other estates up to the next tertre, which is Tertre d'Auguet, which is now called Quintus, and is owned by the Aubryon, the Luxembourg prince. So in between all those two tertres, you have all those estates that are incredible estates on the slope and on the bottom of the slope. And the terroir here is the dream for us. It's limestone and blue clay. So that's absolutely perfect. You see the vineyard right now. We are nearly early September. End of the summer, the leaves are super green.
Yeah.
So that kind of terroir is absolutely perfect to keep freshness and humidity.
Yeah, because I imagine you've got good drainage as well. But the limestone there is ideal for a lot of. What's the blend? Is it Cabernet Franc that are mostly planted here?
So mostly Merlot. The base in Saint-Émilion is always Merlot, but here it's rather low because it's around 65% Merlot, and then you have 25% Cabernet Franc and a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon, which is not frequent here on the right bank. When we bought the chateau in 2017, there was this vineyard of Cabernet Sauvignon is just behind us, and we said, okay, we're probably going to cut that, but let's wait the first harvest. We did 17 harvests, and those Cabernet Sauvignon were beautiful. So, okay, let's wait another harvest. 18, beautiful. 19, exceptional. So we kept it, and we're probably going to plant some more in the future.
Yeah, because it is strange to have Cabernet Sauvignon, especially in this area. Why do you think it's doing so well here?
It's probably the right spot to have. The problem of Cabernet Sauvignon is to bring the Cabernet to the top maturity, and sometimes with our weather here, it can be complicated. Because you have to go quite far in the season. So, but here, probably the best location to reach the maturity in a good condition. So, so far so good for our Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon, and it really brings an added value in the final blend.
Yeah, sure. So, how many bottles do you produce per year here for the first wine?
So, of course, it depends on the vintage. The vintage is will decide about the quality. So the target is to make the highest percentage of first wine possible versus second wine. But in general, on a good vintage, we are around 55,000, 60,000 bottles maximum. And when it's getting a little bit more complicated, we can go down to 40,000. It's a question of selection.
Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And the our subscribers some of them will be tasting the 2010 Bellefont Belcier. Could you just explain? I know you didn't have the chateau at this point, but I'm sure you've tasted a little bit of 2010.
Yeah, I did taste the 2010 not a long time ago, because we did we are in the classification process right now. So we are presenting Bellefont to this classification because we are classified, so we want to stay there, and we have to show 15 vintages, including 2010. So I tasted it a few weeks ago, and it's tasting super well. I really like the duo 2009, 2010, and 2010 for me was a great vintage. Maybe, in my opinion, a little bit better than 9 in general, because the level of maturity, acidity was just perfect. And Bellefont 2010 has probably reached his peak right now in a way that you have this complexity coming from the limestone with truffle notes, that kind of very black fruit tobacco notes also, and that's absolutely beautiful right now. You don't need to decant that for 5 hours. You put that in a decanter for an hour. Make sure you pour it at the right temperature. That's key, and that's a beautiful bottle, in my opinion.
Of course.
In 10, they were using probably around 75% of new oak and 25% of 1-year-old barrel. On that kind of big vintage, big juice, good volume. When you have that kind of big boy in your hands, you can use quite a lot of new oak. Because you will need. We are on the limestone, so the tannins coming from the limestone can be a little bit sharp. So you need the oak aging, not for oak flavors, but for the oak tannins. And those oak tannins will help you to civilize the wine. And so on a big vintage like 2010, you can use quite a lot of new oak, and that will help the wine to have the right structure for the future.
Yeah, cool. And now, do you still follow those kind of methods, those principles on aging the wines here?
It depends on the vintage. When you have a vintage like 2019, for example, which is a big boy, you can use quite a lot of new oak. If you have a vintage which is fresher, like let's take 2014, for example, then you reduce. But basically, right now we are working on a base of 50% new oak, more or less, and we update every vintage, and we also work still with the barrels, but also in big oak vats.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. That's very very informative there. So hopefully you enjoyed this little visit. Thank you for having us. This is
if you
beautiful.
want, we can do
we'll do a little tour.
tasting of the 2010.
Why not? So pretty lucky today, because I wasn't expecting to be able to taste this wine. I've actually I've tasted a 2009 probably 2 years ago, and I found it absolutely delicious. So it filled me with lots of joy. Jean-Christophe mentioned that 10 is even better than 9. Pretty exciting.
It's a great bottle, 2010. It's a good time to drink it. I think the wine is showing release potential right now. The wine is great. I'm just going to have a little rinse to our glasses. We have we are on limestone, and the water we have here is very can give a little taste. So it's always better to clean your glass with wine. So you make sure you have the right aromas.
I'm sure not many of you have done that before.
So Bellefont 2010. Good nose. open right now.
Yeah, straight away.
You just open the bottle and it's there.
Those deep dark berries, dark fruits.
Yeah, you
How
have
do
a
you
lot
feel it right on
of
your
black fruit, and I'm sure if you leave it open, that will go on a few tobacco notes as well. And what I like is when you leave the wine like that for a few minutes, very quickly you have the truffle notes coming. It's very typical from those limestone areas.
Yeah.
And it's kind of very cool because when you have those truffle notes, these black fruits, it makes your life much easier to play with food.
Yeah.
The variation of food you can combine with this wine is huge.
Good. Let's talk about that. That'll be really interesting what we compare with this, because obviously Bordeaux is typically red meats, steak, so forth.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more variety in this one.
That works, of course, with meat, but I would go also on fish if you have some fish which are a little bit strong, because this wine is at the same time strong but very delicate. It's not like our American friends would say, not a blockbuster that punch you. No, it's very delicate. So fish for sure, but I would also go on white meat, like duck, for example. You know that we love duck here.
Yes, yeah.
So duck would match. I mean, you can go with some dishes that are not super powerful and very delicate. The wine and the dish is going to balance themselves. And when a wine is mouth-watering like that, it means that you have the right balance between maturity and acidity. And these are wines with a very good aging potential. This is the balance of the wine, and here you have it.
And you can taste it's going to age for a long time too. But good luck keeping it in your cellar and not drinking it.
You see the bottle right now is probably at 16 Celsius. It's good to bring the wine on the table at 16 like that, and you just leave the wine in the glass. It will warm up a little bit. Yeah. So probably the best temperature for tasting is around 17, 18. Yeah. So if you bring it too warm, it's a pity. So 16, 15, 16 is good, and it will warm up in the glass after.
Yeah, great. Well, what a little treat you've just given me there. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome.
Thank you.